Okay, so first there was a talk of Dr. Ravi Kant. So because of the unavoidable circumstances, his talk was shifted, and I have to rope in side to rescue the session. And since we are getting late, I will try to finish it off. But nevertheless, the topic is very important. We talk of in situation, many situations like diabetes, how to protect heart. Now this is a situation in kidney, how to protect the heart. So that is cardioprotective strategy in CKD patient. So remember, these patients are non-diabetic patient I'm predominantly talking of. So in next 20 minutes or so, 15 minutes rather, I will be talking about the pathophysiology, how to predict the risk factor, the pharmacological and non-pharmacological management, and the future strategy of cardiovascular protection. So the mortality in case of CKD patients is predominantly because of the cardiovascular disease. Even in Indian scenario, if you look at the late mortality, it is not the infection, it is actually the cardiovascular disease. And why it is so? It is because of the neurohormonal dysregulation, it is because of the inadequate RAS blockade, because physicians are fearing that hyperkalemia will occur, and the ill management of the hyperkalemia and uremia toxin as one of the factor. So we should know the history to analyze the things, how the things have evolved over a period of time. The father of nephrology, the Richard Bright, has shown association between the renal disease and the cardiac disease, and he found that there is a urinary sediment and there is a cardiovascular abnormality in form of left ventricular hypertrophy in autopsy study. Since then, the concepts involved, and Ossian Flint and subsequently other cardiologists has also proven the concept, and renin-angiotensin system was discovered. So that is the whole idea of this. So if you think of a association between the CKD and CVD, the common question comes that there is a common denominator, that is blood pressure. And the trial from the ESCOT and the advanced accomplished trials, these have all shown that if you reduce blood pressure, there is cardiovascular benefit, and if you reduce blood pressure, there is renal benefit as well. So reducing blood pressure can be a connecting link, but that doesn't mean that this is only the determinant. The EGFR is one thing which is independent predictor of mortality in case of CKD patient. So particularly in older age patient, and if you look at the younger age patient, particularly the albuminuria is one thing which is going to decide the mortality. So message is, for older patient, EGFR is important. For the younger patient, albuminuria is important. So this is about the patients. Let's look the things in terms of a healthy patient. And if you see the kidney donor patient, there are subcertain abnormality and there are subcertain hidden. So if you see a person who has donated one kidney, there are subcertain abnormality in form of increased LV mass, there is increased HSCRP, PTH, and FGF system is deranged, and uric acid is abnormal. So something is going on, even if in healthy, live, one kidney donor. So what are different links? So these links may be in form of cardiovascular aging, in form of regulation of autophagy gene, in form of a different hormone that is known as renalase, a new hormone, and the hypercortisolism, the FGF23 system, and the ectopic fat, which Dr. Alok was pointing out in his talk, like pericardial fat in case of heart, and the ectopic fat in case of kidney. So these are the possible links. But remember, as Dr. Nirendra was saying, the CKD was having a spectrum of disease. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, and all may behave differently. So stage 5, they all are having different pathophysiological abnormality. So what is the missing pathophysiological link? Our teacher used to tell us that pathology is a grammar of medicine. So if you analyze the histopathology, you know that in case of CKD patient, heart is aging fast. So there must be something which is accelerating the aging process, and that something may be autophagy gene, and that is progeria gene, and that is primalin A. So it has been found that in CKD patient, the uh, uh, progeria gene, that is primalin A, has been upregulated. So this may be one possible link. So what about other autophagy gene? Yes, there are battery of gene. Once they are analyzed, it has been found that they have been increased. So there is accelerated aging in case of uh, accelerated aging of heart in case of CKD patient. So what about uremia? So if you see, if there is a uremia, there is a changes at the level of myocardium, there is changes at the level of vessels. So in case of myocardium, there is increased intramyocardial calcium that will lead to adverse remodeling, and there is an energy deficient stage. And not only this, on the vascular endothelial level also, there are abnormality which is going on. So you can see if there is a uremia, there is left ventricular hypertrophy. It can increase infarct size if there is associated myocardial infarction, and there is chances of arrhythmia. As Dr. Nirendra was saying, that CKD patients have more chances of having atrial fibrillation. That's true, very true. So the primalin is one thing which may lead to endothelial dysfunction. The pulse wave velocity may be the earliest thing which can be deranged. At our center, we are routinely doing this to detect the early changes and aggressively treating these patients. Another possible link may be another hormone, that is renalase. So this is an hormone. What it does, it catabolizes the excess sympathetic monoamines. So what renalase does, it is produced from the heart, kidney, and liver, and it degrades the excess catecholamine. So either there is a renalase resistance in CKD patient, or it is secreted less. So renalase is one enzyme which can be cardioprotective, and in future you may have one drug called renalase potentiator to improve cardiovascular mortality in case of CKD patient. So that is a very exciting thing. To prove the hypothesis, they have infused the renalase in a experimental mouse model, and that shows to be very effective in reducing the infarct size. So what about FGF23 system? This is another one of the way to link between the CKD and the heart disease, and there can be abnormal upregulation of ACE system, that is renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and there can be abnormality in case of phosphate metabolism, calcium metabolism. The system will be activated, and ultimately what in result is left ventricular hypertrophy and ultimately cardiac involvement. So that is one thing. If you have a drug which can modify FGF23 system without, believe me, the vitamin D analogs which are not affecting the calcium level can be an important target to modify FGF23 system. Thing is hypercortisolemia. So if there is a hypercortisolemia, there is more insulin sclerosis and atherosclerotic carditis. These patients leading to more ectopic fat. I was earlier talking about that heart and kidney both don't like excess fat. Particularly, nobody wants excess fat around the waist. So do the kidney and heart. So excess fat around the heart, excess fat around the kidney, both are maladaptive thing, and this will lead to podocyte dysfunction. This will lead to tubular hypertrophy, insulin resistance, and increased renal gluconeogenesis. That is very, very important. Why SGLT2 inhibitors are so much successful. One of the possible mechanism may be this renal gluconeogenesis, which probably not that much emphasized. We will discuss in the talk which are scheduled on the Saturday in detail about this. So like I was telling, that CKD is not the same disease. Once it is progresses, there is increased sterile inflammation. Once progression occurs, there is a calcium and phosphorus abnormality, uremia, stage renal disease, the PTH level increases, and once the PTH level increases, the one of the study done by Dr. Pallavi in her thesis has shown that if the PTH is increased, there is more chances of cardiovascular disease in form of CHF. So there is there in stage CKD patient, and that will stimulate the atherothrombosis in these patient, and these will lead to excess cardiovascular mortality concept. So summarizing all, if there is increased salt water retention, there is chances of the gut microbiota alteration, inflammation, and the vitamin D altered metabolism. So these are the summary. But how to predict the cardiovascular risk? Because it is very important. Once you predict the risk, and if the risk is high, you tend to become more aggressive. If you predict that risk is low, you can be a little bit slow. So that is one thing. Here is one formula which easily gives you the prediction, and that is very important for the primary prevention of cardiovascular disease in these subgroup of patients. But the golden rule remains same: to modify the whole risk factor, and on top of that, don't forget the non-pharmacological intervention. They are very, very important, and most of the time, clinicians tend to forget this. So what are those? Smoking cessation, salt intake, dietary, obesity, and physical activity. Here I will like to take a 1 minute on the dietary protein. If you take excess amount of protein like 1.3 gram per day for weight loss or other thing, even if there is no CKD, it may increase the glomerular filtration, and ultimately there can be kidney damage. So that is one thing. What about the traditional risk factor? The traditional risk factor like blood pressure reduction, the data from the SPLINT trial, which was mainly on the non-diabetic population, shows that if you control blood pressure more strictly, there is more chances of cardiovascular benefit. For the diabetic patient, probably we need to be a little bit liberal, but in terms of ACR reduction, we have to be strict. What about the RAS inhibition? They are important. Mineralocorticoid receptor agonists, they are important. Glycemic control, they are important, but with important limitation. And what is that? The hyperkalemia and aldosterone escape, which occurs with the renin-angiotensin blockade system. For the mineralocorticoid receptor agonist, if you are using in the CKD patient, there can be life-threatening hyperkalemia. So hyperkalemia is very important limiting factor. And if you are treating the diabetic patient, probably hypoglycemia and weight gain are very important. So what about lipid control? It is very important. The statin should be given along with the antiplatelet drug. They are very important. Aspirin recommendation remains same, but if you are using antiplatelet agent, mortality benefit, what the recent evidence says, what to do much benefit, it rather will factor stabilizer. That may be a game changer. That is called redoxistat. So this is a molecule of the future, which is going to correct the anemia, and it will correct the blood pressure and lipid as well. So this is a very important anti-inflammatory molecule which is coming up. The phosphate, of course, this with the sevelamer, it is anti-inflammatory. The vitamin D, like I was telling you, the FGF23 system, and there is a little evidence about the uric acid, though we are thinking that modifying uric acid may benefit, but it may not. The data may be subsubtle. So summarizing all this, you have to treat endothelial dysfunction, RAS activation, the inflammation, the FGF23, sympathetic overactivity, probably SGLT2 inhibitor may modify the sympathetic activity. So what are different newer things which we can do? Use of novel mineralocorticoid receptor agonists, which are causing less hyperkalemia. This is very important. Better management of hyperkalemia, educating the patient, telling about the diet, taking care of the circadian rhythm of hyperkalemia, which is there, and use of the ARNI, which Dr. Alok was pointing out. And don't forget SGLT2 inhibitor and the less talk about molecule is the GLP-1 receptor agonist. I'm very sure that in coming 4 or 5 years, the cardiologist will start talking about the SGLT2/1 receptor agonist. This molecule can also be a game changer. So what are the obstacles in case of effective renin-angiotensin system blockade? The aldosterone escape and hyperkalemia. And remember, the hyperkalemia has got circadian rhythm variation. So split the ARB and beta blocker into morning and evening dose. You can use the newer hyperkalemic agents like petiromar and ZS9. These are very important agents to treat hyperkalemia, and the important molecule is the ARNI. So it can cause less hyperkalemia and there is less aldosterone escape. So that is the beauty of this molecule. So there is less aldosterone escape and there is less chances of hyperkalemia. Coming to the novel mineralocorticoid receptor agonist, this is the molecule which is causing less hyperkalemia, and there is evidence that there is a mortality benefit once you are using it. So in future, you are going to hear more and more about this molecule, and this molecule can be a very effective agent in treating disease patient in case of CKD patients. So what about the high dose EPA, the omega-3 fatty acid 13 with the game changer was reduced trial, eGFR less than 60. If you are using this agent, probably there is mortality benefit. So summarizing all, for effective fear that it may cause life-threatening hyperkalemia, you have to be dosed. If hyperkalemia is becoming obstruction, then you can use potassium binder. Newer agent like mineralocorticoid receptor agonist manage these patients better. So what about the GLP cardioprotection? What I was telling that if you are want to modify the cardiovascular mortality in case of CKD patient, probably GLP-1 receptor agonist can be one of the agent. And second thing is the other anti-diabetic agent, and among the other anti-diabetic agent, probably other oral semaglutide is one drug which can be very helpful. So I was talking about the recent data which has come with the CREDENCE trial and DAPA CKD trial. The CREDENCE trial, predominantly diabetic patients were taken, and in the DAPA CKD trial, both diabetic and non-diabetic patients were taken, and you can see there is a cardiovascular protection and there is a renal protection. So for a non-diabetic renal patient also, there can be mortality benefit. So summarizing all the things, manage blood pressure better with the evidence from the SPLINT trial, and for the refractory hypertension, you can use ARNI. For the lipid control, use statin along with the ezetimibe. If you can use high dose ezetimibe can be used in this patient. Ezetimibe along with the high dose EPA can be used. The RAS blockade can be done. So RAS blockade can be done effectively with the potassium binders, and mineralocorticoid receptor agonists should be utilized, and probably newer mineralocorticoid receptor agonists are having better impact. So I will give 1 minute to this summary slide. Cardiovascular mortality is very strong predictor in case of renal dysfunction patient. They are very important cause. You have to modify 3 things. What about my slides? They are not visible. Why they are not visible?
Share. So kindly screen share again.
So I just want to share the summary slide. Actually, the thing is, you have to modify 3 things. First is the correction of anemia. Second is the correction of microalbuminuria. And third is, if you want to modify these things, you have to effectively block the RAS system. And for effectively blocking RAS system, you use the agent which will cause less hyperkalemia, probably the newer mineralocorticoid receptor agonist and this thing. For the recent evidence from the DAPA CKD trial, use SGLT2 inhibitor. The DAPA is much better as compared to the EMPA, but you have to wait for the EMPA kidney trial, which may be showing the beneficial effect even in the CKD patient with the non-proteinuric patient, and these data are lacking, and probably very soon we will get. And the data from the SOTA is also available